Yeah, today we are starting off just to look at just the framework and just get to introduce ourselves to the concepts of .NET Framework, but also get to understand the architecture of .NET Framework. And so that is going to be just a little bit of our introduction, or rather our engagement this morning, which I believe within an hour we will be able to cover that. Just to put some few things right, or just some few administrative issues regarding this class. One is to say that there are some cards and assignments I had uploaded, and I realized this morning that maybe I had made a mistake on restricting. So please, in case you did that, those assignments or anything, they are not updated as yet. I want to change a few things. So I've tried to restrict that, but I will make an announcement when the evaluations are supposed to be done in this engagement here. And so as yet I haven't given you assignments or cuts as at now, but I just want to try and beef up some few things for me to see how we can do them from this platform other than any other platform. Yes, the other thing is on what else? The other thing was there's something else I wanted to. Oh yeah, the other thing is I will keep updating our notes, so I may have some different notes from what I have used before, and I keep updating each and every semester. So what that means is I would recommend you to check the most current lecture on the day when we are having that lecture, as opposed to prior, because I may even update a few hours before we engage. And so like even right now or this morning, I made some few changes on the lecture that we have this morning. The other thing is that I would recommend you to consider to download a .NET Framework version 2012 or 20, I think, from 2012 coming down. They are available free, offered by Microsoft. So I would recommend, if you have a laptop, please consider to download and have it in your machine, so that even as we start coding probably from next class, we will have a smooth engagement together. So that's also something that you may need to note. Anything else that I may have missed, I have not spoken about on administrative issues of this class, feel free to type in, and if you have any question or if you have an issue that you need clarification. Let me be reminded, who is a class rep of this class? If someone can remind me on who is the class rep? I know we may have, I don't know, we may be having two class reps, one for town and TLC. So I'm seeing Chris. Okay, Chris, I think I engaged him last class. Yeah, please, if it's possible, tell Chris to try and ensure that I am in the WhatsApp group. It makes things a bit easier, so that if you have any question, probably what time are we starting, Sometimes I create these conferences immediately. I am here for the class, so if you need those clarifications, I think it will be good if I am on WhatsApp, if you have a WhatsApp group. But also, I need to say that in most cases, unless communicated otherwise, this conference will be starting at 11:30 on Wednesdays, and so just plan accordingly to be available at that time, and also to be prompt to be here exactly at 11:30, because that's the only way I will take you present. Otherwise, I'll take you either late or excused or absent as well. So just plan to be here and be here right on time. Yes, so let me go straight to today's conversations, and we are just trying to um, introduce ourselves to the .NET framework and just get to know what this is all about, but also just try to paint a picture of some of the possibilities that we can be able to achieve out of this framework. Yes, so some few definitions right there is, a platform is just an environment where all the resources are available um, for performing a particular task. And yes, we can say that .NET Framework is actually a platform, but also a framework is this is ready to use collection of classes and interfaces used to for developing a particular type of application. And that's why we have that, and we'll be able to discuss probably how does this really work, because we are not talking of I know we may have interacted with other object-oriented programming languages, and we know Java or any other that you have interacted with, C++. And so .NET is also, we need to note, and those are the discussions that I want us to have today. We need to note that it's not a framework, or it's not a platform where we just have one language, but it's a platform where we can have so many languages. In fact, as at now, we have 30 plus programming languages that are, what do we call this, that can, or that you can be able to integrate. I think integration is a word, yeah, that you can be able to integrate with the framework. And I'll be able to explain a little bit about that. But yes, very important is just to understand we are putting collection of classes and interfaces together, and we want to be able to use those in performing particular tasks, or in just programming, developing applications, or may it be desktop applications, may it be web-based applications that we can be able to develop such. The other thing is .NET Framework. So this is environment for development and running of software applications featuring ease of development, incorporation of various languages, and use of web-based services. And what we need to note right there is that, yes, we can be able to use a number of languages. In fact, it's possible to develop one application using various languages, not just one language within a .NET framework. So, but also that there is ease of development. That's also very important. And we'll just be talking about, for example, Windows Form application development, which is development of interfaces that are interactive, that are easy to use using .NET framework. And so you realize that, yes, there is ease of development because we can do a drag and drop kind of a thing and just come up with a very robust interface that connects with a particular database that we have. And so that's also very, very important to note. So I'll talk about various components within .NET Framework in a short while. But before I do that, then I think it's important for us to ask ourselves, so why .NET? Why would we be interested in .NET in the first place? What really propels us, or what would be the motivation for us to use .NET Framework um, in software development? And yes, first, let me start by saying the ease of development is one that we can be able to develop. There is a lot that has been already thought about by the developers, the Microsoft developers. And so that has made a lot of things to be a bit easier in development. So Microsoft.NET is a framework that provides a common platform to execute or to run applications developed in various programming languages. So that's one of the reasons, of course, that we would want to be interested. Because if you are keen on C++, you can use C++ on .NET. If you are keen on C#, you can use that. If you are keen on JavaScript, you can use that. If you are keen on VB.NET, you can use that. And so that gives us a very good platform where we can be able to develop as many applications as possible. Yeah, with a lot of ease, if I may say that. So the main intention was just try to bridge the gap of interoperability between services and various programming languages. Bridging also the gap that you don't have to be limited to just one application, or rather one programming language to develop an application. But also, how can such application be developed using various languages could be an area of interest for us. The other thing is, so let me just get into some few advantages of .NET. So one is object-oriented. Object-oriented. Just a So sorry, I just got a disruption right there. But what I was saying is object-oriented approach is very, very important and keen for us to see here. That .NET framework encapsulates lots of functionalities into classes, and you have covered object-oriented programming, and definitely I believe that you know what we mean by object-oriented, that we are able to view each and every element within a program as an object, and we are able to develop programs that are structured with classes and objects within the classes. And so that's very, very important. The other thing is, application security is built in, so you can be able to enforce security quite easily because it's built in. Deployment of applications is quite easy. And this is also an advantage that we can be able to leverage on when we are talking about .NET framework development, application development. So you realize that, yes, it's possible for you to be able to develop or rather to assemble the applications and be able to describe a particular unit of deployment that you want to develop, that you want to deploy. But also, let me say also, there is a lot of collaborations that have come in this day and age of development, of software development, whereby I am good in database development, the other person is good on front end, another person is good on server-side scripting, and we can collaborate. And .NET Framework also gives us that capability that we can collaborate. with various people that we have that are developing the application. Also, we have had issues on versioning, and this is something that we can be able to handle very easily, that if we need to escalate some new updates into an application, it's possible. You know very well that Microsoft has a cloud solution called, do you call it Asha or Azure, or okay, just depends on where you come from. But yes, many of us call it Asha. So Microsoft Asha. The name is this. You may be knowing this. Let me type it here. Um, so you might have seen this, and it's actually a product of Microsoft, and it's also developed to help us that if we develop applications, we can also be able to deploy those applications quite easily. Yeah, so there are many advantages, leave alone even just thinking about ease of development and all those. There are many advantages. The issues of interoperability, that we can integrate various languages together. All those are advantages that we may need to consider. So the framework. Now, let's just think about the architecture of the framework that we are talking about. And the diagram that is right there is a diagram that is very common in any tutorial that you talk about, especially if you are talking about introduction to .NET Framework. This is, a diagram that you will not miss. But yes, what we are saying is, one, just note that we have various languages at the top right there. And these are some of them, they come by default with with .NET Framework, but others they can be integrated with .NET Framework. And the reason why that is possible is because common language specification layer within .NET Framework is open source. And so any one of the developer or any one of programmers who have developed various languages can easily integrate. But also any software developer who wants to integrate development with .NET can do that, because common language specification is an open source layer within .NET. Okay, so that's very important. And please keep confirming. Let me maybe just as a way of, so that this is not a monologue, let me pick a few guys. Wycliffe, you are the first person here, probably one of the first people that joined. Yeah, please just type in your thoughts about, especially just about what we have discussed on advantages of Microsoft's .NET Framework. Which is that one advantage that, as you know, that is standing out for you, or that looks quite, it's exciting to know that that is possible with .NET. You can type in that, so that I just confirm that we are here. Keep tall, do the same. Huntington, keep tall. And let me also pick who? Let me also pick Lois Mulwa. Please type in some comments in here. That's also a way of me confirming that we are all here. And I'll be sampling as we continue, just like that. What is one of those advantages that that is standing out for you, or what other additional advantages that you can talk about? Maybe you have noted from your own reading or your own personal reading. What are some of the other advantages that you may have noted? just type in and as we continue. So I've talked of Huntington, Kiptol, Lois, Mulwa, and Wycliffe. Please type in. So what I was saying is that we can have various languages. Some of these languages, they come by default, already configured and installed and within .NET Framework. But the others, we can be able to integrate with the framework. And the reason is the common language specification layer of .NET Framework is actually open source. So someone can easily be able to integrate a different language with .NET very easily. But also there are some libraries that have already been developed that also can be able to help us in one way or the other. Especially, like for example, if you want to run an application on Python in this framework, you just pull a library online and they are just free, all of them. Probably, I think all of them. So you can pull a library and install it here and you can run Python quite easily as you continue. The other thing is, so I'll talk about common language specification layer a bit more in details, but also you realize that now we have various services that we can be able to offer in .NET Framework, starting with ASP.NET, which helps us to be able to develop web services and web portals. So web-based applications, we can be able to get that. The other thing is base class libraries. Now you must have in one way or the other, you must have engaged with libraries, functions within an object-oriented programming language. And so for every given language, you expect that we have some libraries. And when you are developing, if you are using, for example, C++, there are functions that are contained within the libraries. And you need those functions to make your work easier, because the functions, for example, are there to be able to help us and to make our work easier. So you can call particular function and use it within your project. The other thing is base class library, and these things are some of them. Okay, before I go to base class libraries, I've talked about Windows Forms. Okay, I talked about ASP.NET for web-based web portals development within .NET, so we can develop web-based applications. Windows Forms, they are mainly, and this is an area that we focus a lot on for developing interfaces for software, or for, like, for example, for a desktop application, you can develop an interface that connects with a database. And so the ADO.NET is also there to help us to link with the database. So, for example, things like the data provider are there to help us to connect with the interface. And that's also very, very important. The other thing, of course, I've talked about the base class library, and I will give more details in a short while around that. But the other thing is the common language runtime is also very, very important for us to note. So common language runtime is there for conversion of whichever language that we have into what we call an intermediate language that is taken into a just-in-time compiler that helps us to convert that intermediate language into an executable code that is now sent to the operating system for for execution. In any other object-oriented programming language, you would expect that a high-level language, when you compile, you directly convert that into an executable code. Now, that may not be possible with .NET Framework. And of course, we may need to ask ourselves some few questions around there. So let's just go through some of those, some of those parts or components of .NET Framework, and probably just try to understand a few things in there. So we are saying that in the figure, we are able to illustrate the Microsoft .NET Framework, and all the .NET languages are built in a common language specification, while designed specifically to support the .NET versions of Visual Basic, C++, C#, JavaScript, and all the other languages that can be integrated with this platform. And of course, there are many. I talked of, Python, COBOL, Pascal, Fortran, Smalltalk, Java. There are many, many languages that we can integrate here. There are actually more than 30 languages that we can easily be able to integrate here. And so, so the common language specification just helps us in that. Now, let me give you a clear understanding. So when we talk about common language specification, we are saying that it contains guidelines that language should follow so that they can communicate with one another, or that so that they can communicate with other .NET languages. So common language specification in short terms helps us to do type matching. So if you are developing an application and that application is using, let's say, it's using what? C# and C++ and JavaScript, you can actually be able to match a particular language with the libraries, particular base class libraries that are there, and help you in executing those libraries. So type matching is also very, because it's not one language to be specific. It's not one language that you have in this framework. And so you don't just have one library, you have several libraries that are there. So I'm seeing Lois saying, I think to add on the advantages is that there is less coding and increased reuse of code since it works on object-oriented programming, and that I agree. And actually in some other curriculums, this unit is called visual programming because it's more interactive. It's more user graphical interface programming. It's more drag and drop kind of a thing. And some of those concepts you will learn. Yes, I agree that .NET Framework is more reliable in many ways. But also, Pose is saying interoperability of languages is possible with .NET Framework, and that's true. Please keep your comments coming as we continue so that we can be able to learn together. And also, it helps me to know that I am not alone here. So keep those thoughts coming as we continue. Okay, so we are saying that common language specification is very important, and this helps us in type matching. So we know this is C# and these are the base class libraries for C#, and we know how to link the two so that they can communicate with one another, because the libraries contain functions for a specific language and not for all the languages. And so we are able to match that. But also a consistent, for base class library, we are saying that we can have a consistent object-oriented libraries of prepackaged functionalities and applications. So we can develop functionalities prepackage them and store them within the libraries. And whenever we need to use those functionalities, we can call them and use them. I'll talk a little bit about common language runtime, but by definition here, we are saying it's a language neutral development and execution environment that provides common runtime for application execution. And what that means is we may have various programs developed, and sometimes we may not know how to interpret various languages. And so what we provide is an intermediate language, and I'll show you that in a short while. We are able to change a particular language into an intermediate language. So if up here you have written a program in C++, then we expect that common language specification is going to match that language or that code with a particular base class libraries. And then also during execution, the common language runtime helps us to convert this particular code written in C++ to an intermediate language, which is taken in what we call a just-in-time compiler. And that just-in-time compiler is the one that changes that into a native language or a native code, a machine language that the operating system can execute. And so that's a little bit about how that functionality would look like. And it's actually quite understandable. So we talked about common language specification. More details on this is it's able to perform the following functions. One is establishes a framework that helps enable cross-language integration. I talked about that. Type safety. I talked about type matching and high performance code execution. But also provides an object-oriented model that supports the complete implementation of many programming languages. Then also defines the rules that language must follow, which helps ensure that objects written in different languages can interact with one another. And that's of course what we have just talked about. Base class libraries, I mentioned about this, and I say these are just prepackaged functionalities that are stored within .NET, and you can call them whenever you want to use them. They are very comprehensive, object-oriented collection of reusable types, and every time you need to use them, as long as you know what to call when you need to call, it's very easy for you to implement quite a number of functionalities. Common language runtime, I talked about this, and yes, first we have said that it's a language neutral. Please remember that it's a language neutral, component that helps us in execution of various languages, .NET languages. But also I talked about some of the functions is of course being able to manage the memory allocation and also garbage collection. We know garbage collection is one of those functions or those functionalities that are available in .NET, or rather in not just .NET, but in object-oriented programming. Yeah. But also we have talked about intermediate language. So the common language runtime helps us in conversion of intermediate language to a native code compiler. So we are able to change a particular language into a language that is executable by the machine. A good diagram that can help us to see this is actually what I have on the screen right now. So write a program in C#. It's taken by the compiler, compiled into an assembly intermediate code. That code is what runs within the just-in-time compiler to come up with a native code. And the native code is what the operating system can be able to understand and to execute. And yeah, I am expecting that this is not very hard because we have interacted with object programming, object-oriented programming. So I expect that we have a bit of understanding of when we compile a code, what exactly happens within within a within an environment or an integrated development environment that we are using. Okay, let me hear any thoughts, any questions. Onesimus Mutunga, do you have any question? Type in either yes or no. If you have, please type in your question. Brian, do you have any question? Grace, do you have any question? Chris, any question? Okay. So limitations, good question. Limitations, what are the limitations that we can have here? And this is something I would want also to throw to us. But to be honest, some of the limitations is just the fact that we are dealing with so many languages. Sometimes it can be very confusing on what on just how to work with, especially the prepackaged functionalities in the .NET framework. It can be a challenge to know. For example, if you have used, let me give an example. I have used a VB.NET language and I have used C#. And sometimes you can be coding on, or you can be developing an application using C#, but the code you are writing is a VB code. And that can be quite confusing sometimes. So you need to really be a master of what you are doing. But also the other thing is now the bulkiness of this. Sometimes you are forced to, especially during installation, just to reduce the the functionalities that you want to install to just what you need, because sometimes it's very bulky. Of course, this platform, it's very bulky, so it can be even just execution and loading and all those things can be very very cumbersome, or it can be quite heavy in many ways. So of course, we can share our thoughts on, even from what you may have gathered before, what do you think are limitations of us using .NET Framework? What do you think are some of those limitations? Of course, some of those other ones is integration with some of the other platforms. So compatibility could be some other limitations. Yeah, today we have so many operating systems, and so it's not just Microsoft only. And Microsoft may have invested a lot more on compatibility with their solutions or with their operating systems. And so that can be a challenge. That can be a big challenge right there. Okay, I'm seeing people typing. So yes, I agree that, and this is something I would want to interest you with, because it's possible for you to come up with even just some of you I have attended, your presentation, the final project presentation, and I feel like sometimes we are really limited on how we can be able to develop robust applications. And I wonder if we have thought on how we can actually use such a platform, which in one way or the other, it's a platform that can help you to do a lot within a very short time. And I know we usually have a lot of limitations in terms of time when it comes to final projects. So can we say that .NET makes use of multi-tier software architecture? I would say yes. Because also it's possible for us to have even team development, that you have this person handling this part of the project, the other person is handling another part of the project, the other person is handling another part of the project. So I would say yes, it's a multi-tier software architecture that we are dealing with here. Good thoughts in there. If you have any other question, let me know. I haven't heard from a couple of us here. Anna, Weru, Chacha, please type in anything, even if it's I am following or something, so that I know you are here. Who else? Okay. Just type something so that I know you are here, and so that I can be sure that you are following. But also, I am able to track. Grace, are you still here? Okay. I'm able to track. I keep tracking if we are here. So whenever someone goes offline, I am concerned to know if we are still here. But it's good to know that we are still following. Just as I finish in a short while, I just needed to highlight a few things. And so these are just the narratives of what I have just talked about. Please check the various types of just-in-time compiler. And I'll share that in the discussion forums for today. And also you share with me what are the advantages of using C#, because that's one of the languages that will focus our energy on, the advantages of using C#, and also the advantages of using ASP.NET. That will be part of our discussion in the group, or the group discussion that we will have as part of this lecture. And I will be also, I'm actually creating that now before we take today's attendance. But if you have any question for, related to today's session, let me know. And so we can be able to figure out some of those questions together as a class. Let me create a discussion forum where we can engage and talk. At what point? Okay. Sorry. So what I was saying is configurations are usually a big challenge. So for example, configuration with databases. So you have this platform, you are developing the front end and you want to link that with a database, and sometimes it can be very challenging. So the ease of doing that within .NET Framework is definitely something that you would want to consider. And those are some of the thoughts that I want us to have a discussion around that here, and just see what are the possibilities that we can be able to achieve with .NET Framework. Yes, of course, everyone has his own preferences, but until you have tried various options is when you can be sure that my preference is actually the best. Yes, and so it's always good for you to try out various options and see what works for you. And that's why we are here, to just learn and see what is it that we can gain out of this this class. Okay, so put some discussion or give your thoughts around the questions I have shared. Give your thoughts. Let me get the attendance, and then I will call it a session, and we will continue later. So I have changed, and I want to use just one attendance for the whole class, so that I don't have to compile a lot. I'll just have one session, one attendance for tracking the whole of all the sessions we will have. So today looks like this. Let me stop sharing this and share this. Are you seeing my screen? So today is 13th. You're seeing my screen? Okay, yes, okay. So today is 13th, and I want to mark those who are present. I think it feels very lonely, especially for the lecturer. Now that it's more of me speaking. Please unmute yourselves, and when I call you, you can say present here, so that we get to hear you, and so that it's not so monologue. So, Muhammad Abdi, are you here? Mutua Angela Mwende, Anna Muero, Tenzivila Barasa, I think I saw you.
Present.
Anna, you're here?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Mutua Angela. Mutua Angela Mwende. Mohamud Abdi. Arasa, you are here. Brian Dongo, you are here. Brian Oluoch. Brian Oluoch. Chacha. Okay. Even if you type is okay, I'll be able to get you. Let me just try to. So Chacha is here. We go to the next. The other one is Oluoch. Oluoch is not here. Chris is here. David.
Present.
David, you're here? Okay, Chris is here. David, you're here? No. Okay. Hamza. Happiness, I think I saw you.
Present. Present.
Immaculate. Immaculate Chalo. Huntington, I saw you.
Present.
Okay. Makanga. Wangoi Milka. Lois, I think I saw you.
Present.
Okay. Onesimus Mutunga, I think I saw you. Innocent is here. I haven't seen Innocent. Kaburuchu. I can't see the other name. Wamuida or someone. Grace, I think I saw Grace. Wycliffe is here. So that's the attendance for today. I hope there is no one who didn't hear their name. If there is, please let me know. But I will have all the attendance for all the classes like that. And so we'll keep on taking the attendance after every class. Let me know if there is any question, any last question or any comments or anything that I need to know before I release us. But most importantly is please note that you are expected to have a discussion after this. So it's not like the class is over. It's only that part of the, one part of the class is over. But after this, you're supposed to have discussions. Now, part of the ways that you can be able to engage or rather to earn marks in your collaboration marks is for every discussion we have, make sure you post and you comment to at least 2 or 3 students. You comment on some comments from another student within the class, give them your thoughts or give them your opinion around what they are saying. Yeah, and also I will endeavor to comment to as many as possible in any discussion forum that we will have. There are many materials online. Some of them I'll be posting them. I am still trying to sample, those that are so relevant to us, and some of them I'll be posting them on our dashboard for this class, and so expect that as well. And they will be there just to edify learning. Of course, most of them, or rather all of them, will be coming from YouTube. So you can be able to engage, watch a video or two, and learn a few things. Any question? So I'll leave this that forum open in case you need to continue to engage with one another here. I will leave it open for the next 20 minutes. Then, yes, I'll come and sign out. Anyone who has been able to access the discussion forum I am talking about on lecture 2 of this class, just going to the dashboard, lecture 2 of this class. Anyone? Okay, how do we access the recording? let me say that it's something I'm working on. In fact, even this morning I was calling the director ZDS, but I'm not able to. Yes, I'm recording, but I still need to know why I am not able to get the videos after the session is over. I don't know where those settings would be missed or where I'm missing the settings. So the recordings are there, but I'm not accessing them after this class. And so I'm yet to resolve that. I hope maybe I will have resolved that by next class. But please note how we said, for those who are not here last week, we said, attending this online collaboration is a must. Yeah. In fact, in the evaluation, you are expected on minimum to attend 10 sessions on minimum out of the 13 that I have scheduled. 10 sessions. Okay? So this is a must. You must be here when we need you to be here. But also for me to tick you present, you need to be here right on time. So I'll give you an allowance of a few minutes for you to be here, for me to tick you present. Otherwise, I'll tick you late or excused, and that may not work very well with your attendance. So please pass that word to the others. Let them know that they are required to be here. Yes, let me just take a cup of water, and I'm leaving this here in case you need to continue talking to one another. I know it's a hard season, so we are not seeing one another. So if you need to talk to one another, you can. And then I'll be back. Are we getting the discussion forum? I'm waiting to get a response. Are we getting the discussion forum? Oh, okay. Let me change the date. Sorry for that. I think I may have made a mistake when setting up the dates. Let me change that in a short while. Sorry for that. Please refresh and let me know if you are able to make some comments. For those who may be struggling with this, let me show you using my screen. So it looks like this. I hope it is. Yes. You're able to see what I have on the screen. Okay, so just go down. This is the course. So just go down up to lecture 2. This one, Introduction to .NET Framework. And you see discussion forum, this one. So if you click on this, it's going to take you to the forum. I thought I made those changes. Let me check the changes again. Sorry. I thought I made the changes on when it's due, or I didn't save something. I know that your view may be different from my view, and that's still okay. Sorry, I didn't save the changes. Let me even put it up. Yeah. Check now. So I expect now you should be able to engage. Are you able to maybe send some replies or let me see this. It's okay now, Lois? Is that what you're confirming? It's okay? From your end? Because I'm the only one who has commented, so I needed to know if not yet. Wow. Any other person confirm? Brian? The due date is still 13th. What's happening here? Okay, just a minute again. I check this. But I'm seeing Barasa has been able to comment. Is that true? Barasa, are you still there? Have you been able to comment? Barasa? Is it
Yes, sir.
working for you?
Yes.
It's working.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then it should be able to work for anyone else. So just refresh and try to make comments there. Now you make comment and you comment on what others are saying. You need to make sure that your comments are constructive. So it's not just saying, okay, it's fantastic or whatever. Just make comments that are constructive, that you can be able to somehow appraise someone on their thoughts. Of course, also, a lot of courtesy. So make comments that are constructive. Make sure that you comment to at least, let's say, like 3 other students. Post your comment, but also comment on 3 other students who have posted their comments there.
Maleo are but maswali. Eh? Niko hapo. Kuchero hizi. Ndos.
So I will leave this forum now. For any other discussions, let's take them to the discussion forum. I think it's working. So thank you for your time, and see you in the next class, same time, same place next week. Thank you.